According to a recent statistic from the World Health Organization, 9 out of 10 people now breathe polluted air, killing 7 billion people every year. Living in the South traditionally promises a haven from toxic air, making country life appear like a true picture of health. Unfortunately, many people fail to realize that that air is no purer than that of the densest cities. After decades of research and advocacy, air pollution remains a global issue, but Americans often downplay or dismiss the severity here at home through a lack of understanding. The global population quickly approaches 8 billion, making it alarmingly evident that we must share our Earth. Today, I would like to illuminate how Americans unknowingly contribute to this issue, why this issue attacks Americans and the entire population's quality of life, and how government policy fails to acknowledge these facts. I'll discuss what generates the pollution in the first place and how it connects to the American way of life. A debate regarding which pollutants control the air quality scale the most, natural ones or that of man's industry, has distracted many from seeing the overall picture. Human actions tip the scale in conjunction with natural sources. While many Americans realize pollution is a real issue, they fail to realize the level of significance our lifestyle choices equal for a grave reality for future generations. Since the 1970s, the Environmental Protection Agency minimized the amount of various chemicals like carbon monoxide, lead, and mercury, but still battle fine particles, ground-level ozone, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen dioxide. Particulate matter are a complex mixture of microsubstances and gases that enter the atmosphere through farming, diesel, and petrol engines, construction work, and other industrial processes. Volcanoes, sea spray, pollen, and soil are all natural contributors as well. However, a 2016 global study from Columbia University found fertilizer-produced gases mixing with those from cars and power plants generates the greatest source of fine particulate matter. In addition, more than half the aerosol ingredients in much of the eastern and central U.S. comes from farming, making the South one of the largest contributors of as agriculture defines our culture. Thankfully, as governments draft and enforce stricter regulations on industrial emissions, the harmful particles will become less prevalent and fertilizer can still be used to sustain a global population. Ozone is a natural resource, but issues arise when it comes down to the lower atmosphere from the upper level, where it protects Earth from the strongest and most damaging sun rays. Composed of 3 oxygen atoms, they form near the ground in a chemical reaction between light rays, organic gas, and nitrogen oxides, often due to cars, power plants, and chemical plants. Counterintuitively, the concentration of these gases is higher in the country than in cities, meaning we are losing what was once considered a haven from the toxins of industrialism. Sulfur dioxide is a prototype for harmful air pollution, sourced from burning coal and oil, which is unfortunately our main source of energy and power. Vehicles, electric industries, petrol refineries, and cement factories are just some of the leading emitters. This form of pollution also contributes to ozone formation. The final form of pollution is nitrogen dioxide, a chemical gas which constitutes a major component of air pollution episodes with exclusively man-made origins: vehicles, power stations, heating, and diesel equipment. The Earth is composed of 78% nitrogen gas alone, although in the lower levels of our atmosphere this chemical remains stable, slowly but surely changing the overall composition of our Earth. If this wasn't harmful enough, as it rises into the upper levels of the atmosphere, it destroys the good protective ozone, making the globe more susceptible to the sun's most powerful UV rays. Now that you understand where air pollution primarily comes from, I must share how this lifestyle wrecks individuals' quality of life. Everyone knows bad air can kill you. Smoke inhalation is a prime example, as it claims the lives of firefighters and habitual smokers alike. What people may not realize is that man-made pollutants are extremely detrimental to the health of all life. Each type of pollution contributes to a laundry list of medical issues, daily respiratory difficulties, and exacerbates other chronic illnesses, giving Americans a lower quality of life behind a mask of mass production and consumption. Particles and gases penetrate the lungs and bloodstream, inflame the airways, and lead to the development of heart attacks, lung cancer, and asthma. In the past, medical professionals wouldn't hesitate to recommend quality time outside with nature where the air always healed, but today's youth can't experience that joy and privilege without risking their lifespan. People who work outside frequently, the elderly, children, and those who suffer from cardiovascular and respiratory issues are all at risk for all four of the universal pollutants driving people indoors. Smog, a common form of weather directly resulting from air pollutants mixing with water vapor, irritates the eyes, throat, and can even damage the lungs. According to a CNN article after the initial COVID outbreak in China, satellite images released from NASA and the NSA show a dramatic reduction in nitrogen dioxide emissions, those released by vehicles, power plants, and industrial facilities in major Chinese cities between January and February. Since then, Chinese citizens have made disturbing claims regarding the return of easy breathing and birdsong, two things we take for granted in America, but we can soon change if we act now. After sharing the frightening reality of living with air pollution, I can discuss how policy fails to coincide with life-saving science. According to a 30-year analysis of 652 cities spanning the entire globe, increases in air pollution directly correlated to air quality-related deaths, leading most experts to conclude that air pollution causes premature death. In contrast, an article outlining the types and effects of air pollution, the EPA states that it may cause increased respiratory symptoms, hospitalization for heart and lung diseases, and even premature death. It can even cause reproductive effects or birth defects. This discrepancy in federal policy and science is alarming as Americans rely on policymakers to make informed decisions on behalf of their constituency. There is no maybe a cause of premature death. It is a cause. In an article from the American Lung Association discussing the drawback of the recent administrative changes, the current EPA has taken steps to remove independent science advisors from key advisory committees, including the Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee, and replace them with people paid by polluting industries. The EPA's main role is restricting emissions of chemicals and biological matter responsible for harming public health, but in recent years, conservative actions have neglected and undermined this responsibility. Congress has battled the issue of how to display environmental stewardship since the 70s, and since then spent more funds on space endeavors than caring for our own deteriorating planet. The more we take from the earth, the more from us it will take in return, sacrificing untold lives for the sake of maintaining our way of life. Of course, independent companies and investors advocate and fund futuristic and sustainable modes of living, hoping to capitalize on the next break, but this should be a political forefront, not in the hands of the rich. While the current EPA fails to meet the nation's great need, it has lowered carbon monoxide and lead counts in the past year since its initial implementation, as well as helped states meet the national standards through plans in accordance with the Clean Air Act. The amount of progress is a wonderful foundation to have, but private interests cannot come between the needs of the people and the hunger for the rich. It requires a consciousness and respect for fellow humans and nature that current models and paradigms of consumption do not allow. This is not an easy issue to solve by any means and cannot be fought by the government alone. It takes an individual awareness to realize and ask questions about better habits of energy consumption that will help get the air protection agenda on track. In closing, it isn't the massive changes that start a revolution, it's the small details that accumulate to a tipping point. We currently have two options. Let the pendulum of air quality continue down a dark and irreversible path, or grab the chain while it isn't too late and swing it back in the right direction. After discussing the leading causes of air pollution, its detrimental effects on human life, and where legal policy fails to meet those needs, I hope you understand a little more why people take such drastic measures to get the world's attention regarding the environment. If the present is gloomy, one can only imagine how dark the future will be. The air is so dense and hot, no light can penetrate, and no recognizable life can survive. Start asking questions about how you can take back control of your body and your life before the quality of the air starts to control you.